The floating crystal hall shimmered in the darkness of space. The Galactic Council was meeting again, as they did every year. Lights from 1,000 stars reflected off the walls, making rainbow patterns that danced across the floor. Ambassador Zixlar stood up from his floating chair. He was tall and blue, with 4 arms and eyes that glowed gold. Today, he had something important to share. He touched a small device in his hand, and a hologram appeared above the council floor. The hologram showed a planet with blue oceans and green land. Zixlar's voice filled the chamber. "My fellow representatives, I bring evidence of a forgotten race called humans." A sound like clicking and whistling filled the room. The other aliens were laughing. The Krex ambassador slapped his tentacles together, making a wet sound. "Not this again, Zixlar. We've heard these stories before." Zixlar didn't give up. He waved one of his arms, and the hologram changed. Now it showed creatures that walked on 2 legs. They had no scales, no claws, and no natural armor, just soft skin and small hands. "Look at the data," Zixlar said. "These beings lived on a world with gravity that would crush most of us. They breathed poison oxygen. They survived temperatures that would freeze our blood or boil our organs." Speaker Kithal, the head of the council, rose from his platform. His purple scales rippled as he moved. "Ambassador, every species has its myths. The humans are just stories we tell children to make them behave." Zixlar felt frustrated. He had spent years studying old records. He had found evidence in ancient ruins on distant moons, but no one wanted to believe him. "These are not myths," he said. 3 centuries ago, our ancestors met them. There are records." "Enough," Kithal said. His voice boomed through the chamber. "We will vote on this matter once and for all. Who believes these humans are real?" No one raised their hands, tentacles, or energy fields. Zixlar stood alone. "Who believes humans are nothing but fiction?" Kithal asked. Every single member of the council voted yes. Even species that had never agreed before now stood united. The Morlans, the Vidari, the crystalline beings from the Ice Nebula, all voted the same way. Kthal nodded, satisfied. "The council has decided. Humans are officially declared a myth. We will waste no more time on fairy tales." Zixlar's shoulders slumped. He deactivated his hologram and sat down, feeling defeated. Around him, the other ambassadors talked about trade agreements and border disputes. Normal council business. Real problems that needed solving. But Zixlar couldn't stop thinking about those old records. They talked about human ships that could jump across space in seconds, about weapons that could destroy planets, about beings who refused to die even when they should. The story said humans had left the galaxy after a terrible war. They had gone somewhere far away to rebuild. The records warned that one day they might return. As the meeting ended, Zixlar gathered his data crystals. He overheard 2 young delegates talking. "Did you hear the human stories when you were young?" one asked. "Of course," the other replied. "My spawning mother said humans were monsters who ate stars and drank black holes." Ridiculous. They laughed as they floated away. Zixlar shook his head. He remembered different stories. Stories about beings who were kind to friends but terrible to enemies. About creatures who would die to save each other. About a race that never gave up, no matter how impossible the odds. That night, alone in his quarters, Zixlar looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there, beyond the known galaxy, he believed humans still existed. The council had dismissed them as myth, but he knew better. He just hoped the stories about their power weren't true. Because if they were, and if humans ever did return, the council's laughter might turn to screams. The universe was vast and old, but not all of its secrets had been revealed, and some myths, as the council would soon learn, were better left undisturbed. Captain John Miller stood on the metal floor of his ship's bridge. The battlecruiser Washington was bigger than anything the aliens had ever built. Through the front window, he could see space twist and turn as they moved through quantum space. Coming out in 3, 2, 1, said Ashley Rogers, the science officer. The stars stopped spinning. They were back in normal space. John looked at the screens around him. They showed maps and numbers that told him where they were. After 300 years of hiding, humans were back in the galaxy everyone knew. "Where are we?" John asked. Ashley tapped some buttons. "Edge of Viridian territory, sir. Just like we planned." John nodded. 3 centuries ago, humans had run away after a war with aliens. They had gone far away to build new homes and new ships. Now they were strong enough to come back. The Washington wasn't just big. It was 3 kilometers long and covered in weapons. Rail guns that could shoot metal rods at the speed of light. Plasma cannons that burned hotter than stars. Shields that could stop nuclear bombs. "Captain, we're picking up alien ships," said the radar operator. His name was Paul, and he was very good at his job. "How many?" John asked. 4 small ones. Patrol ships by the look of them. John smiled. He knew what would happen next. The aliens would see them and think they were seeing things. No one would believe humans were real. On the Viridian patrol ship Swiftwind, Commander Laxtor blinked all 6 of his eyes. His ship's computer was showing him something impossible. A massive ship had appeared out of nowhere. "What is that?" he asked his crew. "Unknown vessel, Commander," said his second officer. It's huge. Nothing in our database matches it." Laxtor felt his scales turn cold. The ship was enormous. His 4 patrol boats could fit inside it 100 times. He had never seen anything like it. "Open communications," he ordered. Static filled his speakers. Then a voice came through. A strange voice speaking their language perfectly. "This is Captain John Miller of the Earth vessel Washington. We mean you no harm." "Earth?" Laxtor searched his memory. Where had he heard that name before? Then it hit him. The myths. The stories about humans from Earth. "Impossible," he whispered. But there it was. A human ship. Real and solid. And terrifying. Back on the Washington, John watched the alien ships carefully. They had stopped moving. He could imagine their confusion. "They're realizing what we are," Ashley said with a smile. "Good," John replied. "Let them look. Let them see." The Washington's lights turned on. The ship lit up like a city in space. Every weapon port opened. Every shield generator hummed with power. It was a show of force meant to impress. On the Swiftwind, alarms started screaming. Computers tried to count the weapons on the human ship but gave up. There were too many. "Commander, we must report this," shouted the communications officer. Laxtor couldn't move. He was frozen with fear. The myths were true. Humans were real. And they had technology that made his ship look like a toy. "Send warning to Homeworld," he finally managed to say. Tell them the humans have returned." The message went out, but it sounded crazy. No one would believe it. Humans were just stories told to scare children. John watched the alien ships turn and run. Their engines glowed bright as they escaped at full speed. "Should we stop them?" Paul asked. "No," John said. "Let them go. Let them tell everyone we're back." Ashley turned to face her captain. "Sir, the council won't believe their report. They think we're fiction." John's face grew hard. "They'll believe soon enough. When our fleet arrives, they'll have to believe." Outside the bridge window, more human ships started appearing. One by one, they emerged from quantum space. 20 ships. 30. 40. Each one massive and powerful. The aliens had forgotten humanity. They had turned humans into myths and legends. But now the myths had returned, and they brought warships that would make the galaxy tremble. Lieutenant Sarah Woods walked down the metal hallway of the Washington. Her boots made soft sounds on the floor. She was heading to meet Admiral Daniel Carter, the leader of the human fleet. In her hands, she carried a tablet full of information. The door slid open with a quiet hiss. Admiral Carter sat behind a large desk, his gray hair cut short. He looked up and nodded. "Lieutenant Woods, come in," he said. Sarah stepped forward and placed the tablet on his desk. "Sir, I have the briefing you requested. Information about what we've achieved since leaving the galaxy." Daniel picked up the tablet and started reading. His eyes grew wider with each page. 300 years ago, humans had been weak compared to the aliens. Their ships were slow. Their weapons were simple. They had lost the first war because they weren't ready. But defeat taught them to be strong. In secret, far from alien eyes, humans had changed everything. "We mastered gravity control," Sarah explained. "Our ships can now fly without engines. We pull and push against the fabric of space itself." Daniel nodded. He remembered the old days when rocket fuel was precious and space travel was slow. Sarah continued. "Dr. Peter Johnson led the genetics team. Every human child born in the last 2 centuries has enhanced DNA. We're stronger, faster, and can survive in space for short periods without suits." She pointed to a diagram on the tablet. It showed a human soldier in battle armor. The armor was like a second skin, but made of metal and energy fields. "These suits make us nearly impossible to kill," Sarah said. "They increase our strength by a factor of 10. Built-in medical systems can heal wounds in minutes. Quantum computers help us think and react faster than any alien." Daniel studied the information carefully. The humans who had fled the galaxy were not the same humans who had returned. They had evolved, adapted, and improved. "What about our fleet?" he asked. Sarah smiled. This was the best part. 40 capital ships, each with quantum drive systems. 200 escort vessels, 1,000 fighter craft, all equipped with technology the aliens haven't even imagined yet. She showed him videos of weapons tests. Beams of pure energy cutting through asteroid fields. Missiles that could phase through shields. Bombs that created tiny black holes. "Our scientists discovered how to manipulate quantum fields," Sarah explained. "We can create weapons that ignore normal physics. The aliens still use plasma and lasers. We use the fundamental forces of the universe." Daniel put down the tablet. He felt pride, but also responsibility. Humans were now the most advanced species in the galaxy. But with great power came great choices. "And our soldiers?" he asked. "The best ever," Sarah replied. "Each Marine has 10 years of training. Their neural implants allow them to share information instantly. In battle, they move as one mind with many bodies." She showed him footage of training exercises. Human soldiers moving faster than the eye could follow. Working together without speaking. Accomplishing impossible tasks with ease. Daniel stood up and walked to the window. Outside, he could see the other ships of the human fleet. They floated in space like silver cities, each one a miracle of engineering. "The aliens won't understand what hit them," he said quietly. Sarah joined him at the window. "No, sir. They still think faster than light travel is the peak of technology. They have no idea what we've become. In 3 centuries of isolation, humans had done what no other species managed. They had broken the limits of biology and physics. They had turned science fiction into reality. The galaxy remembered humans as primitive beings who barely survived their first contact with aliens. But those humans were gone. In their place stood a new humanity, forged in the fires of defeat and reborn as something greater. "We're ready, Admiral," Sarah said. "The Council will learn that some myths have teeth." Daniel nodded. The time for hiding was over. The time for showing the galaxy what humans could do had begun. Commander Ryan Shaw stood at the weapons control station on the Washington. His fingers moved over the glowing buttons as more Viridian ships appeared on the screens. They had come to investigate after the patrol ships ran away. "Count 30 vessels, sir," said Lisa, the radar operator. "They're trying to surround us." Ryan wasn't worried. The alien ships were small and weak compared to the Washington. But he needed to show them human power without starting a war. "Target that asteroid," he told his weapons team. He pointed at a floating rock on the screen. It was huge, the size of a mountain. "Locked on, Commander," replied the gunner. The Viridian ships sent messages demanding surrender. They called the Washington an illegal vessel in their space. They threatened to open fire. Ryan pressed a button on his console. "This is Commander Shaw. Watch and learn." A single rail gun fired. The metal rod shot out at incredible speed, leaving a trail of blue light. It hit the asteroid dead center. The explosion lit up space like a new sun. The asteroid didn't just break apart. It turned to dust. Tiny pieces spread out in all directions, creating a cloud of glowing particles. On the Viridian command ship, Captain Vexnell felt his heart stop. All three of them. His crew stared at their screens in shock. "Analysis," he demanded. "Impossible energy readings," said his science officer. "That weapon. It released more power than our main reactor produces in a year." Vexnell had fought many battles. He had seen powerful weapons before, but nothing like this. One shot had destroyed an asteroid that 20 of his ships couldn't dent. "Send emergency message to Homeworld," he ordered. "Tell them the human myths are real, and they have weapons we cannot match." The Viridian ships backed away quickly. They kept their weapons powered but didn't dare fire. Everyone understood the message. If humans could destroy an asteroid with one shot, they could destroy ships just as easily. Back on the Washington, Ryan allowed himself a small smile. The demonstration had worked perfectly. "Sir, incoming transmission from the alien fleet," said the communications officer. "Put it through," Ryan replied. A shaky voice spoke in broken human language. "We understand. We leave now. No fight." The Viridian ships turned and fled at maximum speed. They scattered in different directions, each one racing to spread the news. Ambassador Zixlar received the reports in his private quarters. He had just returned from the council meeting where everyone laughed at him. Now his communication device was full of urgent messages. "Human vessel confirmed," read one. "Weapons beyond our science," said another. "Council must prepare for war," warned a third. Zixlar ran to the council chamber. He had to make them understand. But when he arrived, Speaker Kithel was already dismissing the reports. "Mass hallucination," Kithel declared. "Our ships saw sensor ghosts. Nothing more." "But the asteroid," Zixlar began. "Could have been destroyed by natural causes," Kithel interrupted. "A random collision or internal explosion." The other council members nodded. They wanted to believe the comfortable lie. Humans were safer as myths than as real threats. Zixlar felt despair. The evidence was clear, but fear made the council blind. They would rather deny reality than face the truth. Meanwhile, the Washington moved deeper into council space. More human ships joined the formation. They weren't attacking or invading. They were simply showing themselves, letting the galaxy know they had returned. Reports flooded in from across Viridian territory. Sightings of massive vessels appearing and disappearing. Demonstrations of impossible technology. Stories that matched the ancient myths perfectly. The council continued to deny everything, but ordinary citizens began to whisper. Military commanders started planning for the worst. Scientists dusted off old records and found disturbing patterns. Humans were real. They had returned with power beyond imagination, and the galaxy was about to learn why their ancestors had been so afraid. The warning shot echoed across space, carrying a simple message. "We are back, and we are stronger than you can imagine." High Admiral Levos stood in the war room of the Council fleet. Around him, holographic displays showed ships from 7 different species. The Kreks had sent their black battle cruisers. The Morlands brought energy ships that glowed purple. Even the peaceful Vidari had joined with their silver defenders. 200 ships in total, the largest fleet ever assembled by the Council. Levos felt proud but also nervous. "Status report," he commanded. His officers rushed to answer. "All ships ready, Admiral. Weapons charged. Shields at maximum." Levos nodded. The Council had finally accepted that something was happening in Viridian space. They still refused to say the word human, but they agreed to send a fleet to investigate. On the human command ship Phoenix, General Amy Baker watched the alien fleet gather. She sat in a comfortable chair, sipping coffee while studying their formations. "Look at this mess," she said to her staff. "They're bunched up like scared animals." Her tactical officer, Captain Peter Lee, pointed at the display. "They're using Formation Delta 7, Standard Council battle strategy from 200 years ago." Amy laughed quietly. "They haven't changed their tactics since our grandparents fought them. This will be easier than I thought." The human fleet was spread out in space, hidden behind cloaking fields. 40 ships waited in the darkness, invisible to alien sensors. Their crews were calm and ready. Lovos ordered his fleet forward. They moved slowly, scanning for any sign of the mysterious invaders. All they found was empty space. "Perhaps the reports were false," said his second-in-command. "There is nothing here." Just then, alarms screamed across every ship. Space itself seemed to tear open. Human vessels appeared out of nowhere, surrounding the Council fleet completely. "Impossible," Lovos shouted. "How did they get behind us?" But it was true. Human battleships emerged from quantum space on all sides. Each one was enormous, dwarfing the largest Council vessels. Their hulls gleamed with strange metals. Their weapons glowed with unknown energies. On the Phoenix, General Baker opened a communication channel. "Attention Council Fleet. This is General Amy Baker of Earth. Stand down your weapons and prepare to talk." Lovos felt his 8 legs tremble. The voice was speaking perfect galactic standard. A human voice. The myths were real. "We are here on Council authority," Lovos replied. "You are trespassing in regulated space." Amy's voice remained calm. "The space doesn't belong to you anymore. We're taking back what was ours." The Council fleet faced a terrible choice. Fight against an enemy with superior numbers and technology, or admit defeat without firing a shot. Lovos made his decision. "All ships, prepare tow." He never finished the order. Human electronic warfare ships had been jamming their systems from the start. Now they activated full power. Every Council ship lost communications. Weapons went offline. Shields flickered and died. "What's happening?" Lovos demanded. "They've hacked our systems," his engineer reported. "Everything is shutting down." The Council fleet floated helplessly in space. They couldn't fight. They couldn't run. They could only watch as human ships moved around them like sharks circling prey. General Baker sent another message. "We could destroy you all in seconds, but humans aren't monsters. We're giving you one chance to surrender peacefully." Lovos looked at his dark screens and powerless weapons. He thought about the reports of human technology. He remembered the old stories about their mercy to defeated enemies. "We surrender," he said. The words tasted bitter, but he had no choice. Across the Council fleet, crews powered down what few systems still worked. They waited in fear for what would happen next. The human ships formed a protective circle around their defeated enemies. They had won without firing a shot, proving their superiority beyond any doubt. Back at the Council chambers, Speaker Kithel received news of the fleet's surrender. For the first time in his long life, he felt true fear. The myths had returned, and they were stronger than anyone imagined. The Battle of the Centauri Gap lasted exactly 4 hours. Commander Kyle Adams sat in the cockpit of his fighter as the battle began. His squadron of 50 ships waited for his signal. "Remember your training," he told his pilots. "Show them what humans can do." The Council fleet had managed to restart some of their systems. A few ships broke free from the human electronic jamming and opened fire. Plasma bolts and laser beams lit up the darkness. Kyle smiled. The aliens were fighting back. Good. Now they could demonstrate human combat abilities. "Alpha Squadron, engage," he ordered. Human fighters moved like lightning. They twisted and turned in ways that seemed to break the laws of physics. Alien pilots tried to track them but couldn't match their speed. "How are they moving like that?" shouted a Krex pilot. His tentacles gripped the controls as a human fighter passed inches from his hull. The secret was simple. Human ships used gravity drives that ignored normal limitations. They could change direction instantly, stop dead in space, or accelerate to impossible speeds. On the Washington, weapons officer Lisa Martinez coordinated the larger battle. She watched as fighter squadrons disabled enemy ships with surgical precision. "Target their engine systems only," she commanded. "We want them helpless, not destroyed." Railguns fired with perfect accuracy. Each shot hit exactly where intended. Alien ships lost power one by one, drifting helplessly in space. The Moreland commander tried a desperate tactic. He ordered his energy ships to combine their weapons into one massive beam. Purple light gathered between the vessels. "Interesting strategy," Lisa commented. She pressed a few buttons. "Let's show them something better." The Washington deployed its quantum shield. When the alien beam hit, it didn't just block the attack. It absorbed the energy and reflected it back. The Moreland ships found themselves hit by their own weapon. Council forces watched in horror as their best attacks proved useless. Human technology countered everything they tried. Shields that couldn't be penetrated. Weapons that never missed. Speeds that sensors couldn't track. Analysis of enemy capabilities. Admiral Lavos asked his science officer. The officer's skin had turned pale with fear. "Their reaction time is impossible. Individual humans are responding faster than our computers can process. They're moving as if they know what we'll do before we do it." It wasn't magic. Human neural implants allowed them to share information instantly. When one pilot saw a threat, every pilot knew about it immediately. When one gunner found a weakness, every gunner could exploit it. Commander Adams led his squadron through the heart of the enemy formation. His fighter danced between plasma bolts that should have been impossible to dodge. He targeted weapon systems with precision strikes, leaving ship after ship defenseless. "This is too easy," said his wingman, Lieutenant Helen Torres. "They're fighting like it's still the last war." Kyle agreed. The aliens hadn't improved their tactics in centuries. They still relied on mass formations and overwhelming firepower. Against human adaptability and technology, they had no chance. The battle turned into a demonstration. Human forces disabled ships without killing crews. They showed mercy while proving their superiority. Every move was calculated to inspire awe and fear. As the fourth hour began, the last council ship lost power. 200 vessels floated in space, helpless and defeated. Not a single human ship had been seriously damaged. General Baker surveyed the aftermath from the Phoenix. "Casualty report?" she asked. "Minimal on both sides," reported her aide. "Some alien injuries from system overloads. No deaths. Our forces report 0 casualties." The Council fleet had learned a painful lesson. Their weapons were toys compared to human technology. Their tactics were outdated. Their understanding of physics was primitive. Lavos sat in his dark bridge, surrounded by dead screens. His proud fleet had been defeated by an enemy that barely seemed to try. The myths hadn't just returned. They had evolved into something beyond comprehension. "Signal our complete surrender," he ordered. "The humans have proven their point." Admiral Carter stood in the main conference room of the Phoenix. The walls glowed with soft blue light. A round table made of clear crystal sat in the center. Around it, the defeated council representatives waited nervously. Ambassador Emily Brown entered the room. She wore a simple black uniform with Earth's symbol on her shoulder. Her brown hair was tied back neatly. She carried a data pad but didn't look at it. She knew exactly what to say. "Welcome aboard the Phoenix," Emily said. Her voice was calm and professional. "I'm Ambassador Brown. I will present humanity's terms." High Admiral Lavos shifted in his specially designed chair. His 8 legs twitched with anxiety. Next to him, Speaker Kithel sat very still. The purple scales on his face had turned almost gray with stress. "Before we begin," Emily continued, "let me be clear. We are not here to destroy you. We are not here for revenge. We want to rejoin the galactic community." The aliens looked confused. They had expected demands for surrender, threats of destruction, maybe even slavery. Not this. Emily touched her datapad. A hologram appeared above the table. It showed a map of the galaxy with borders marked in different colors. First, humanity claims these sectors as our sovereign territory. She pointed to a large area that included old human space, plus several empty regions. Any council ships entering without permission will be turned away. Lovos nodded slowly. The territory was large but reasonable. Many sectors were empty space anyway. Second, all trade restrictions against human merchants will end immediately. Our ships will have free access to all major trade routes and stations. The Vidari representative spoke up. But the old laws call us myths. Emily interrupted gently. Clearly, they need updating. She moved to the next point. Third, humanity will have a permanent seat on the Galactic Council with full voting rights. Thol found his voice. Impossible. Only species who have been members for 1,000 years can. Your rules declared us fictional, Emily said. Now you see we're real. The rules must change. The meeting continued for hours. Emily presented each term clearly. No threats were needed. The human fleet floating outside was threat enough. Some demands surprised the aliens. Humans wanted access to historical records about the First War. They requested cultural exchange programs. They offered to share some technology in return for rare resources. You're not asking for tribute. The Morlan ambassador asked. No slaves. No conquered worlds. Emily shook her head. We want partners, not subjects. We want trade, not war. Finally, they'd reached the military terms. Human ships would patrol certain regions. Council fleets would respect human authority in those areas. Joint training exercises would help prevent future conflicts. Admiral Carter spoke for the first time. We've been away for 3 centuries. The galaxy has changed. We've changed. Let's build something better together. Speaker Cathal stood up. His voice shook slightly. The Council accepts these terms. But I must ask, why show mercy? You could take everything by force. Emily smiled. Because we remember being the underdogs. We remember when others dismissed us as primitive. We won't make the same mistake. The formal agreement took another hour to finalize. Each representative signed with their species mark. The document glowed briefly, sealing the pact in quantum encryption. As the aliens prepared to leave, Ambassador Zixlar approached Emily. Thank you, he said quietly, for proving I was right all along. Thank you for believing in us when no one else did, Emily replied. Outside, news spread quickly. The myths had returned as reality. Humans were back, stronger than ever, but offering peace instead of war. In the council chambers, Cathal made the formal announcement. The legends spoke truth. The Death Worlders have returned. Let all species know. Humanity walks among us once more. The galaxy would never be the same. 6 months after the peace agreement, Captain John Miller guided his ship through the busy trade lanes of Sector 9. The Washington had changed from a warship to a diplomatic vessel. Its weapons were still there, but now they protected merchant ships from pirates. Another quiet day, said Ashley Rogers, looking at her screens. 3 cargo ships requesting escort. No hostile contacts. John nodded. This was their new life. Instead of fighting wars, they kept the peace. Human ships patrolled the galaxy's highways, making sure everyone stayed safe. The bridge doors opened. Ambassador Emily Brown walked in with a group of young aliens. They were students from the Galactic Academy, here to learn about human technology. Captain Miller, Emily said, these students have questions about our gravity drives. A small Vidari raised her hand. Her silver skin reflected the bridge lights. How do you move without engines? She asked. John smiled. We don't ignore gravity. We control it. Our ships pull space toward them, like creating a hill that we roll down, but the hill moves with us. The students gasped. They took notes on their datapads. A Krek student waved his tentacles excitedly. Can you teach us? That's why you're here, Emily answered. Humans share knowledge. We don't hoard it. Across the galaxy, scenes like this repeated daily. Human teachers worked in alien schools. Alien scientists studied in human labs. Cultural exchange programs brought species together. On the planet Morlocks Prime, Colonel Susan Taylor led a team of human doctors. They worked with local healers to fight a disease that had killed millions. Human medical technology, combined with Morlock's biology knowledge, created a cure in weeks. You saved our children, the Morlock's leader said, his purple skin glowing with emotion. We thought humans were monsters from stories. Now we know you are friends. Susan shook her head. 300 years ago, we might have been monsters. We were angry and scared. But we learned. We grew. Now we help instead of hurt. In the Outer Rim, human ships protected small colonies from raiders. Species that the Council had ignored for centuries now had powerful allies. The reptilian Shketh, the insectoid Chirix, the peaceful Yuleni, all found humanity ready to defend them. Why do you help us? Asked the Chirix Queen. We have nothing to offer in return. Captain Ryan Shaw answered her, because we remember being small. We remember needing help. Now we're strong enough to give it. The galaxy's economy boomed. Human technology improved shipping speeds. Human security made trade routes safe. Human fairness brought trust between species who had been enemies. At council meetings, human representatives pushed for reforms. They demanded rights for all species, not just the powerful ones. They shared scientific data freely. They opened their universities to anyone who wanted to learn. Speaker Cathal watched these changes with amazement. You could rule us all, he told Admiral Carter one day. Why choose partnership instead? Daniel Carter looked out at the stars. Because ruling is easy. Building something that lasts is hard. We want to be remembered as builders, not conquerors. A year after their return, humans were no longer myths or monsters. They were teachers, protectors, and friends. Children of all species grew up seeing humans as heroes who kept them safe. In her office on Earth, General Amy Baker read reports from across the galaxy. Former enemies now asked for human help. Pirates fled when human ships appeared. Scientists made breakthroughs using human methods. We've done it, she told her staff. We've changed how the galaxy sees us. Captain Miller ended his patrol and headed home. As the Washington passed through human space, he saw something that made him smile. Alien ships flew alongside human ones. Different species worked together on space stations. The fear was gone. They called us myths, he said to Ashley. Now we write their future. And in the vast darkness of space, humanity's warships kept watch, ensuring peace for all.